What's up, guys? So the Penguin series is finished, and it was pretty amazing. It definitely had a Sopranos vibe to it, and Colin Farrell was great as Oz. Anyway, let's get into the series. So episode 1 starts off a few days after the events of Batman, with the city still flooded thanks to the Riddler. Following the death of Carmine Falcone, his son Alberto is now the head of the family and the main crime boss of Gotham. As he's sitting with Oz, who is his father's right-hand man, Alberto gets paranoid that Oz is trying to snake him and take over, to which Oz just shoots him. Yep, he straight up killed him. Then he recruits a kid to help dispose of the body in a junkyard. Afterward, instead of shooting the kid, he decides to keep him around. Oz heads to talk with a guy named Johnny Vitti about the factory that he's been running. He and Alberto were using a warehouse to sell drops, the drugs from the Batman movie. Anyway, Vitti wants him to shut the warehouse down because they're moving the business elsewhere. All of a sudden, though, Sophia walks in, Falcone's daughter, who's been locked up in Arkham this whole time. She goes out to dinner with Oz and talks with him about Alberto's disappearance, thinking that something's not right. Following this, Oz wants to leave Gotham immediately, feeling like he'll be found out for killing Alberto. But his mom talks him out of it, telling him that Gotham belongs to him. So then, Oz goes to visit Maroni in prison, who's a rival crime boss to Falcone. He tries to talk Maroni into having his guys take over the drop business that Vitti wants to shut down, but Maroni isn't interested. That is, until Oz gives him a ring that Falcone took from him years ago, raising the question of how Oz even got it. As he's leaving, Sophia and her henchmen capture Oz and interrogate him, assuming that he's the one that killed Alberto. But just in the nick of time, Vic, the kid, sends a car crashing into the building with Alberto's body in the trunk, making Sophia think that it was someone else who did it. The episode ends with Oz saying it's his city. Episode 2 starts off with Sophia having flashbacks of being in Arkham and having visions of her brother being killed while she's in therapy. Meanwhile, Oz goes to visit Maroni in prison yet again. He talks Maroni into taking over the drops business in exchange for Maroni taking credit for killing Alberto. He arranges for Maroni's men to take the drops during a transport, and things go according to plan, with Oz taking help to take down Falcone's men. Afterward, Sophia's convinced that Maroni was the one responsible for everything, but she thinks that someone in the family is an informant from Maroni and wants to find out who. So she then pays a crooked detective to help her out. Later on, at Alberto's funeral, the cop brings one of Maroni's men, who's been knocked out, to Sophia to get answers out of him. But Oz finds him first and kills him, planting the murder weapon on one of the bodyguards. Luca, Sophia's uncle and current head of the family, then kills the bodyguard and has Oz and Vic bury the body. After this, Sophia fights with Luca because he's been controlling everything and she wants to be the head of the family. But he suggests that she stays out of Gotham. Just then, Sophia calls Oz and wants his help overthrowing Luca and the others. Episode 3 starts off during the end of the Batman film, showing a bit of Vic's backstory with his family. He's up on a roof with his girlfriend watching fireworks when the Riddler's bombs go off. They watch as water from the bay rushes into his family's apartment. Back in present time, Sophia takes Oz to a lab where she has people growing mushrooms with a special hallucinogen in them, planning on having Oz help her distribute them as a new drug. Vic's been staying behind in Oz's apartment when his old girlfriend comes to visit and tries to talk him into leaving Gotham with her. Then, Oz and Sophia talk with one of Oz's old acquaintances about helping with their drug distribution. After that, Vic tries to find a way to tell Oz that he's leaving, but he's afraid to tell him. Oz and Sophia sneak into Vitti's hotel room, where he's been fucking Luca's wife. Apparently he's been doing that for quite a while. Anyway, Oz blackmails him into helping them with their plan. Sometime later, they arrange to meet the leader of the Triads, a local gang, at a nightclub. After winning him over, Oz finds out that Vic was planning on leaving town, and the two part ways after an argument. After that, Oz is telling Sophia about the Triads when Maroni's wife shows up, saying that Oz double-crossed them. As she has Oz and Sophia at gunpoint, Vic returns to save them. Episode 4 starts off with Vic saving Oz from Maroni's wife. They end up leaving Sophia behind because she now knows about him working with the Maronis. We then have a flashback of Sophia at a charity event for a foundation for women's suicide prevention that she started for her mother. There, she meets a reporter named Summer Gleason who ends up trying to question her about the murders of some girls in town who just so happen to work for her father, Carmine. After that, Sophia is having dinner with her father, and he wants her to take over as head of the family when he retires. A bit later on, Sophia meets with Summer yet again to discuss the death of the girls, this time ending with the police looking into Carmine as the killer. When Carmine finds out about this, he has all the murders pinned on Sophia and has her committed to Arkham as punishment. There, they start to give Sophia a lot of shock treatment, but one of the doctors, Dr. Rush, starts to feel pretty bad for her, not sure if she's even guilty. Just when she thinks she served her time, Alberto tells her that the head doctor at Arkham doesn't think she's fit to stand trial, so she's basically stuck there. Sophia meets a girl there named Magpie, and they kind of become friends, but then she realizes that Magpie might be an informant for the head doctor, and thinks that she's been reporting back to him with different stuff they've been talking about. So then Sophia kicks her ass. Well, she kills her is more like it. We then go back to present time after Vic saves Oz from the Maronis. Dr. Rush picks up Sophia and takes her back to his house. Sometime later, she goes to a family dinner and interrupts her uncle to pretty much announce that she's done with the family because none of them helped her when she was stuck in Arkham, and that now she's starting over. The next morning, Sophia wakes up after sleeping in their greenhouse and walks through the house, finding every member of the family dead. Earlier that night, she had secretly pumped poisonous gas into the house and killed everyone. Well, all except for Johnny Vitti. In episode 5, in order to get back at the Maronis for stealing his new drug, Oz and Vic kidnap Maroni's son. Then Oz goes to Blackgate to force Maroni and his wife into trading his mushrooms for their son. Meanwhile, the chief of police goes to the Falcone mansion, where coroners are picking up the bodies. The chief asks Sophia where Johnny Vitti is because he's the only one not dead and he's gone missing, but she says she doesn't know. But actually, he's been kidnapped by Sophia and is chained up underground. As that's going on, Oz and his crew are on the way to trade Sal's son for the drugs. Then Oz gives back their son, but Sal's wife double-crosses them and tries to gun him down. So Oz just sets her and the son on fire, escaping with the mushrooms. After finding out most of the mushrooms are ruined, Oz gets a call from Sal, who just broke out of Blackgate, to come after him. Later on at a meeting, with Vitti and Dr. Rush now working for her, Sophia announces to a new crew that she's now in charge and she's denouncing the Falcone name, now going by Sophia Gigante. Johnny tries to speak up and she just outright shoots him in the head. Then Oz has Vic take his mother out of the area to protect her and they go to Crown Point, a rundown part of the town. As Sal mourns over his family, Sophia pays him a visit and suggests they team up to take down Oz. Then, at the end of the episode, Oz and Vic find their new base of operations, an abandoned underground trolley station. In episode 6, Oz's drug business is booming. They call the drug Bliss, and they've been selling it to all the gangs in town, and have a bunch of people from Crown Point working for them underground. Sophia and Dr. Rush have been having some kind of dominatrix sex together. It's pretty weird. Then, as Oz and Vic hide out in Crown Point, Vic runs into an old friend of his named Squid, who wants in on whatever it is they're doing. Meanwhile, Sal and Sophia go looking for Eve, a hooker that has a relationship with Oz, and they plan to kill her. As that's going on, Squid tries to pressure Vic into letting him in on the drug business, even after Oz already said no, so Vic just ends up shooting him. Sophia pays a visit to Eve, and at first it looks like she's gonna kill her, but they have a heart-to-heart, and Eve ends up giving up the location of their Crown Point base. Wow, thanks. Sometime later, Oz has a meeting with all the gangs in town, who pretty much all hate each other, but he tries to rally them together against the rich people who run the city. As Vic goes to check on Oz's mother back in the abandoned apartment, the power suddenly comes back on, as Sophia stands in the apartment and watches them. In episode 7, we start off with a flashback of Oz and his brothers as kids. When they go outside to hang out, they run into a mobster named Rex Calabrese, the one who Oz has always idolized. Oz's brother Jack approaches him, and he seems to be paid for some kind of intel that he wrote down. After that, they play hide-and-seek in an underground tram station in Crown Point, which is pretty much the one that Oz has the drug business in now. As Oz goes to look for them, he finally finds his brothers, but they're down inside a tunnel. Oz can't get to them because he'd have to climb down a ladder to do so, and because his leg is messed up, he just can't get down there. So he gets pissed off and closes the door, accidentally trapping them inside. Just then, as it starts to rain, rainwater quickly starts filling up the tunnel. That night, Oz watches a movie with his mom as his brothers drown in the sewer. We go back to present day with Oz arriving at the apartment to find Vic knocked out and his mother missing. Vic wakes up and tells him that Sophia took her. And just then, Sal and some others show up outside. Oz sends Vic to go get help from the other gangs as he stays to confront Sal. But they end up beating the shit out of him with a golf club and force him to show them the underground base. Back at Sophia's house, she comes in to talk to Oz's mother, who flips things around on her and says that Oz is coming for her. But then, Sophia hits a soft spot by mentioning Oz's brothers, and the mom loses it and starts talking to Sophia like she's one of the cops looking for her missing sons. So she pretty much goes crazy for a minute. Just then, Dr. Rush shows up to help deal with Oz's mom. Back at the underground base, Sal shows up with Oz and declares that he and Sophia are now running things. But just then, one of Oz's guys shuts the power off, leading to Oz and Sal fighting in a nearby train car. Out of nowhere, mid-fight, Sal has a heart attack and dies. Sophia then gets a call from Oz, telling her to bring his mother back to him in exchange for the Bliss operation that he's created. When she shows up, though, there's nothing inside the vehicle except for a bomb. When it goes off, Oz narrowly escapes, and the whole hideout gets destroyed, along with some of the guys inside. As he climbs out of the rubble, one of Sophia's henchmen knocks him out. In the finale, Frances, Oz's mother, has a flashback to right after Oz's brothers died. Frances found out that Oz left them to drown and doesn't know what to do, so Rex comes by to offer some help. Later on, Frances and Oz go to a local club called Monroe's, where Rex is waiting for him. It seems like she planned to have Rex kill Oz, but then starts having second thoughts. We then go back to present day, where Vic stumbles upon the wreckage from the bombing. He tries to get the other gangs to help look for Oz, but they pretty much all abandon him. As that's going on, Oz wakes up tied up inside the now run-down Monroe's, with Sophia watching him. She has Frances come in and tries to get her to admit that she almost had Rex kill him when he was a kid. And she wants Oz to admit that he left his brothers to die. When neither of them comply, though, she asks Dr. Rush to cut off Frances's finger. Just as he's about to, though, Frances snaps and tells Oz that she hates him. Things take an even bigger turn when she smashes a bottle and stabs him with it. Just then, she sees the brothers standing behind Oz, soaking wet. So clearly, whatever Dr. Rush did to her messed her up. After she collapses, Oz breaks free and drags her out of there, holding off Sophia with a spray of bullets. He drops Frances off at a hospital and reconnects with Vic, as they plan to finally take Sophia down. Meanwhile, she's speaking with the gangs, telling them that whoever brings her Oz first gets to control Gotham in her place, as she now plans to leave the city. One of the Triad gang members tells Vic that Sophia put a bounty on Oz, showing that I guess they're still on Oz's side. Later on, Oz has a meeting with the councilman who helped turn the lights back on in Crown Point. He tells him everything that's been going on, and basically said the whole thing is Sophia's doing, and that locking her back up in Arkham could make him look pretty good. After burning her house down, Sophia heads to an airplane hangar where she meets with Sal, the leader of the Triads, who has captured and brought her Oz. Suddenly, though, the tables get turned, and Vic and some others save Oz, leading to him taking Sophia for a drive. He takes her to a riverbank where it looks like he's going to shoot her in the head, but instead he leaves her for the police to find. Afterward, the councilman goes on the news and says that pretty much everything that's been going on is all Sophia's fault. Oz and Vic then reflect on everything over a bottle of liquor, and then, are you ready for this? Oz kills Vic. Yep, Vic says they're family now, and Oz says he can't have any family weighing him down, so he chokes him to death. What the fuck? Back in Arkham, Sophia's sitting in a cell when she gets a letter from Catwoman, who happens to be her half-sister. In the end, Oz is looking more like his comic counterpart and has a penthouse where Frances and Eve are staying with him. Frances has suffered a stroke, though, and can no longer move or talk, depriving Oz of the one thing he wanted, her saying she was proud of him. So, in a bizarre ending scene, Oz has Eve dressed up as Frances and has her tell him that she's proud of him. It's really fucking weird. The end. Wow, that was a lot, but it was an awesome series. Oz rising from Falcone's henchman to basically being a crime boss was pretty wild. And he killed off pretty much all the crime bosses in Gotham. Well, except for the Falcones. Sophia did that. Oh yeah, and Maronis. He had a heart attack. Well, even so, Oz rose to power, and then paid a hooker to act like his mom so that he can have a weird dance with her in the end. The one thing I'm surprised about is that he killed Vic. What the hell, man? I honestly thought Vic was going to go on to become one of Batman's villains or something. Oh, and what's going on with Catwoman and Sophia? Are they planning some kind of team up? Anyway, guys, that was the Penguin. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.